It's Christmas at Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Professional services at affordable prices. They have air conditioned units, Wi-Fi ready, starting at $2,650 with free delivery and installation. We supply Pioneer, Lennox, Comfy, and Infinity. All at unbeatable prices. Servicing of a 12,000 BTU, only $150. Don't forget to check them out on Google, Facebook, and Instagram. Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Professional services at affordable prices. Contact Darren's Air Conditioning Services at 749-8245.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to what is now going to be known as of Tuesday night. The name of the show, because we had a competition running, so we've been calling it Phillip Edward Alexander Live. After the Tuesday night show with Commissioner Gary Griffith, former Commissioner Gary Griffith, People's Commissioner Gary Griffith, and top-notch senior criminal justice attorney Vernon Dilema, people took it for granted that the name of the show was Gloves Off. And from next week, Tuesday, because this show is now twice weekly, Tuesday and Thursday at 8 o'clock, the name of this show would be Gloves Off with Phillip Edward Alexander. Tonight, let's not stall. Tonight we have a massive panel, and the issue will reveal itself. First off, I'm joined by Umar Abdullah, the leader of the First Wave movement and an activist that has forced himself into the public space. Cannot be denied the amount of work that he has done since the start of this pandemic. Good evening, Umar.
Good evening, and pleasant greetings to all your viewership.
We have Dr. Rajiv Sriram. He's a clinical public health specialist, preventative medicine, nutrition, and diabetes clinician. Good evening, Rajiv.
Good evening, Philip. Thanks for having me.
And we promised that we would have had you after when your dad was here on the first show, Ved Sriram. Yeah? He made sure that we remember that. And the #1 morning talk show host in Trinidad and Tobago, and a founding member of the Candlelight Movement, an activist in his own right, Stefan Rees.
Good evening, MCTV. Good evening, Philip. Good evening, Rajiv, and of course, Umar. Nice to join you guys tonight.
You're welcome.
Pleasure.
Gloves Off is going to get a reputation of having the strongest panels. No competition intended with what is the with Breaking Dawn. This is not a competition. You own the morning. We come in the evening.
None taken.
Guys, we have some issues. This assemblage here has been the front line and the defense of the nation's children. Rajiv, your movement has been standing up against the idea of mandatory vaccinations for children, and you've been very outspoken on the issue. And I know that the First Wave movement has been very supportive, as has Stefan Rees. But I want to ask you to just bring us in and give us an idea as to what exactly your struggle is about, so we could take it from there.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that we are facing a deluge of dishonest reporting internationally about COVID in children. And it's almost like an act of terrorism in the mainstream media, that parents are facing a kind of fear-mongering that is unprecedented in medicine, in media, in public health messaging. There's a drive to try to increase uptake of vaccinations in this country to move the needle forward beyond 45%. After having expended the efforts in adults to try to get the vaccine in through the household, through the pediatric group. And I think there is zero good evidence that children could benefit from the vaccine, particularly given the level of safety data that has been generated through randomized controlled trials to date. And what the public is not being informed, and we've been trying very, very hard for several months to shed a spotlight on the core paper for the Pfizer vaccine, which is the Frank Jr. et al. Paper that shows that the safety testing and the duration of testing in children is just about 4 months. And it was conducted on an extremely small group of children, about 1,000 kids between the ages of 12 to 15 were administered the vaccine. And in both the control group and the treatment arm, there were little clinical outcomes of any material benefit for the treatment arm. There were about 3 persons who developed COVID in the treatment arm and 16 persons in the placebo arm. And it was not really statistically significant because all children recovered fully without any kind of complications. So we know, and being on the ground treating children as well. In fact, I'd have to say, I'm being dishonest if I have to say I'm treating children, because children in general don't really need treatment for COVID. And recently there was a story of a 7-year-old child who died of COVID, and this was plastered across the news. And when the clinical details actually emerged about the child had died of gastroenteritis symptoms consistent with a viral illness, COVID just being one viral illness that can cause gastroenteritis. But the most feared complication of COVID, of course, is pulmonary complications, which is COVID lung. And on a whole, children don't really get COVID lung injury. So yes, you have a child who is becoming severely dehydrated and being kept at home by the parents and not seeking timely medical care. And as I've pointed out in some of my other discourses, every single year, 70 million children die of gastroenteritis. Every single year, 800,000 children die of non-COVID related pneumonia, which equates to about 2,000 deaths a day globally for children. And today there are just about 700 deaths in comorbid children, or children who have previous comorbidities in the United States, and 11,700 deaths for children who had COVID globally since the beginning of the pandemic. So there is absolutely no COVID-19 emergency in children, and there is no need for vaccination in children, given the present level of safety data.
I just need to add something before we pass it on to Omar and Stefan. We were supposed to have Commander Gavin here tonight on the show, and it was heavily advertised. We were going to discuss securing the nation's borders. It dovetails with this subject matter because we've been blaming illegal immigrants for bringing the virus in onto our shores. And I just want to thank Commander Hira for being graceful and allowing us to replace him with this panel to deal with this issue that is rising in the public conversation. Omar, Stefan, one of you, take it from there. What is your take on this mad rush to try and convince parents that children are at risk? Omar, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
This whole issue of forced and coerced vaccination in Trinidad and Tobago has, in particular, when we looked at very early in the game, when we had the injection rollout in all those other countries, Seychelles, Malaysia, Cambodia, these places where the Sinopharm vaccine was rolled out in these countries. Those rollouts started in January and March of this year, and ours started in April. So this government would have had ample time to look at the data coming out of those countries and to make an informed decision that if they were to replicate the same thing here in Trinidad and Tobago, it would obviously have the same effect. And we would have seen in all those countries when the vaccination campaign started in those countries, there was an astronomical rise in deaths in all of those countries. Similarly, when the injection campaign started here in Trinidad and Tobago on the 6th of April, before that, prior to that, 13 months before, we've had 142 deaths. 142 deaths. And we are in just 6 months of our program, 6 months, and we are already over 2,000 deaths. So the question we are forced to ask is, if the vaccinations are not causing these deaths, then what is?
But Omar, this
We
saying the answer to that is correlation is not causation, and they're trying to pretend that it is a coincidence that 2,000
yeah,
people have died in 6 months. But what they're not also
yeah,
taking into account, and I have a running conversation with a former MP, I'm trying to get her to understand that the difference between this 6 months and the first 13 months is for this 6 months, we've had the country locked down with a state of emergency and a curfew. But the first 13 months, we've had a carnival, 2 elections, a Tobago zest of 50,000 people, cruise ships. How could they
yeah.
compare the two? How could they not see that the only thing that is massively different is the introduction of the vaccine?
But more than that, we have seen, and especially now, we are seeing where Japan has leveled their curve by the use of early treatment methods, the use of ivermectin and so on. Why the government aren't looking at the example of Japan? Why the government is not looking at the example of Brazil? Why they're not looking at the example in Romania? Why they're not looking at the example in India? In India, we have in Uttar Pradesh over 200 million people in that country, less than 20% vaccinated. And by November the 7th, they had 7 cases. 7 cases. We are now listed number one in the world. Number one in the world. I hope they are proud, just as how they were proud when the British platform labeled us as number one, and they
Oxford.
were beating their chest about it. So let's say the Minister of Health can beat his chest about this one. The fact remains is that if all this you're seeing glaring in front of your eyes, why are you still looking at countries as Australia, England, Canada, and America? Are you blind? Are you not understanding what is happening here? And you're continuing to coerce and force vaccine your country. We have workers on the breadline today. They are not able to continue with their jobs. One particular young lady was forced to take in this vaccination. A restaurant in Port of Spain. She got extremely ill. Now she has a serious spine defect. She's bedridden. She can't move around as she used to. She's 26 years old. This young lady has a whole future ahead of her. And what did this company do? What is the government? How the government is responding? How mainstream media is responding to this issue? How are they responding? I understand a press conference was done. Mainstream media was invited, and up to now, they're still deciding on whether to carry the story or not. Why is this happening in this country in this year, 2021? A country that was always known to be fun loving, a country that was always known to be warm and welcoming, a country that was always known to attract the best of the best when it comes to entertainment and when it comes to providing comfort and warmth to our visitors. What is happening in Trinidad and Tobago? What has happened to this administration?
Stefan, Omar raised the
Yeah.
issue of Omar raised the issue of what I know to be confirmation bias. Looking for countries
Yeah.
like Germany, Australia, Austria. Is it confirmation bias or is it misery that loves company? Is it that the government just looking for bad news to justify the bad behavior and the failure of our public health administration to treat with this issue with early preventative medications as others have been suggested?
Well, I think we're in a position right now where the media has to take a lot of responsibility for a lot of the things that are taking place in the country. Some people will consider me to be part of the media because I conduct a morning show on another network. I took a decision to do as much reading as possible, listen to both sides of the story, both the governments of and the world leaders, and also the doctors who have been saying, hey, Masha breaks, let's think about this, hold on. I weighed out both sides, and then I decided to tilt on the side that made more sense to me. All right? Now, why I say the media has a role to play in this, right? Omar just mentioned the story of the 26-year-old girl. I was at the press conference. Dr. Siraram was there. There were other media houses there. To date, from Monday to now, I am the only person that has run that story. That is a legitimate story of a 26-year-old young woman on October the 6th took the Pfizer vaccine on October the 7th. She was paralyzed from the neck down. She was at the Mount Hope Hospital for 37 days being treated. Now, that is 37 press conferences that the COVID team had. They knew about this. They never mentioned it to the public. Now, the reason why it's important for people to understand why they should have disclosed this severe reaction to the Pfizer vaccine in particular to the public is because that is the vaccine that is approved for children. That is the vaccine that is approved for children. And in its approval for children, as Dr. Sirira mentioned, the data is limited. They didn't use any big sample size in the trials. I mean, how long did they even test this on children for us to say, without beyond a shadow of a doubt, that this is safe to put into the arms of children? They started with 12 to 16-year-olds. They're gone to 5 to 11-year-olds. I heard Dr. Fauci talking about newborn and toddlers just now. I mean, it's like they're gone vaccine mad in this place. And to ignore the plight of a young woman like that, who reluctantly took that vaccine. The reason why she took the vaccine is because her employer wanted to be a safe zone. And this is the danger of safe zones. And I want all the employers to sit up and take notice to this, because the reality is that when things happen to people, you're not there. Just like her employer is not there right now to assist her. Just like how the state could not provide her with a wheelchair and they had to purchase their own. Just like how she could not get physiotherapy and now she will have to find the funds. But luckily, people like myself and Dr. Siriram, we're trying to assist in that, in where that is concerned with the physiotherapy. She has to get 3 sessions a week at $500 a session. That is $1,500 a week. And the state is nowhere to be found. Not one person who knew about this went and visited this young lady.
Let me just interrupt you and say this. Because when the prisons officer was shot, and we announced that night that we were collecting funds to hire the #1 trauma specialist to provide counseling to this 4-year-old toddler who was holding her daddy's hand. The Minister of Social Development jumped out herself in the parliament to say that the state would be providing counseling, because it seems that once we offer to do something, they have to compete with us. So I want to tell you that the Citizens Union, I want to tell you now, after the show, you let me know what the costs are for that therapy, because the members of the Citizens Union, and I know people in First Wave as well with Umar, would like to get on board and help with this. So I'm saying to you now, let us once again embarrass the government and show that civil society has the heart for these people. But continue the point that you was making.
Yeah, the point I'm making is the state is nowhere to be found, the employer is nowhere to be found, but you want to be a safe zone. A safe zone that makes no sense, by the way. It gives people a false sense of security, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. But you want to be a safe zone. You want in-house dining or whatever it was. And you threatened the young lady's livelihood. And this is the pressure that a lot of people are under today. Now, you mentioned a little while ago that the state said that they would supply, they would provide trauma counseling for the child that was, unfortunately involved in that incident with the killing of her father right in front of her. And you know what? If the state wants to provide it, I'm saying fine, no problem. But where COVID-19 is concerned, I will be damned if I am going to allow any politician to cover up the flaws in the healthcare system using COVID as the excuse. Because I want to remind people, I hear a lot of people talking, oh, you didn't see how much people in the hospital overwhelmed and how much deaths we had today. And we are getting to the deaths and the cases. But you see where in terms of the hospital being overwhelmed, let me stop playing smart with foolishness. Long before it had a COVID-19, I was getting reports, people were calling into radio stations, you was hearing it on the ground. People sleeping in the corridor in the hospital. My aunt had to sleep on a chair in the hall. We can't get a bed in the hospital. This ain't happening now. This happening long time. So they can't be using COVID-19 as an excuse for the corruption and the mismanagement by successive administrations over the past probably 20 years. And this is what is happening today. And we have to face that reality. So don't stop saying that it's COVID-19. No, it's because we are a reactive society with reactive leaders, and there is nobody with real leadership qualities in this country that currently holding the reins of power are in the position to create any change.
Dr. Siriram, I warned you. You called me the night before when you were looking for a venue for your press conference, and I warned you that if the media came, there was no guarantee that they would broadcast it. This is not a crystal ball. What Stefan alluded to there, the corruption, it runs thick through the veins of Trinidad and Tobago. The reality of the situation is, and my brother asked this question, so I'm putting it to you because I know that you've been on shows with my brother. I want to ask you this. My brother's position is this: to the government, to the employer, to the manufacturer of the vaccine. If it is safe to put into my children's arms, remove the waiver of liability. Do you agree with that?
Exactly.
That's right. I mean, the government has drawn down billions of dollars to revamp and create a parallel system and to resource our ICUs and so on. But here we have footage of people lying down in beds in a pool, gurneys in a pool outside in a tent. But I would like to know if some of that money wasn't dedicated towards setting up a vaccine injury support fund, vaccine injury compensation fund. And we had raised the issue, this was in July, before the vaccines really started in earnest as they are now. We told them that we can expect once you start using a leaky vaccine, you're going to have possibly an outbreak and a spread of the variants. How are you going to provide infrastructure for safety monitoring? What is the infrastructure for safety monitoring? Do you have infrastructure for a VAERS system, vaccine adverse event reporting system? Do you have any transparency there? Did you train your doctors to do voluntary informed consent to the patients? And is the government ready to take liability? So anytime you're using a vaccine or using any pharmaceutical agent that has very limited safety testing, you are supposed to disclose to the recipient certain facts about the risks and benefits of the agent, and you're supposed to disclose what you know and what you don't know. If you only have 4 or 5 months of testing, whether it be efficacy or safety testing, you're supposed to tell them that. You say, look, I think it will work. I think it should work. But you cannot use coercion and then deny the patient's voluntary informed consent, that process. This has been an exercise in deception, and it is not just locally. It is international deception. But it does not matter what is going on internationally. Wrong is wrong and right is right. We have to be on the right side of history. If we have to take the lead internationally, and we will make sure and take care of any person who has suffered side effects, injuries, or perhaps premature death, because we needed to continue if you want to circumvent the randomized control trial and say, okay, there's an emergency in adults, fair enough. There's an emergency in adults, fair enough. But if you want to circumvent the randomized control trials, which demand about 24 to at least 36 months of safety testing, where you count every single incident of heart attack, stroke, any kind of flare in cancer, any kind of flare in inflammatory conditions. If you want to stop counting those events in the placebo arm and the treatment arm, and you want to just sweep that under the rug, then you have to make sure that we have some systems in place to monitor.
Doctor, sorry to interrupt you, because I know that we got Umar Abdullah to join with us on very short notice. He has another show to attend. But before you go, Umar, because I need to give you credit for your vaccine adverse effect reporting system, that you on the first wave movement were the first out the gate with this, and that you sense that somebody had to be tracking these things. How is that going, and what is happening with that data? You're muted again.
Sorry about that. Before this hype started on Saturday with our walk from Point Fortin to Port of Spain, I wasn't able to check the website to see, but the last time we checked, there was over 42 cases that was reported on that site thus far. And a lot of the government would have come out clearly in a press conference, I think it was, and warned the persons of Trinidad and Tobago not to go on this particular site and report their adverse reactions. We continue to engage people and encourage them to go to the site willingly. We have not forced anyone to go to the site. We would have told people that there's a site here. We're asking you to go report your adverse reactions. If there were deaths in your families as a result of these injections, go there, report it. It's important that you do this because in putting forward our cases and putting forward our argument, we would need to have a proper structure in place to at least present the information to government. Presently, what we are also doing, we have put together a comprehensive document, a report, a police report that we are going to take to the police, and we are going to try to engage the police to begin an investigation into the conduct of our Prime Minister and the Minister of Health as it relates to the deaths and adverse effects of all these persons who would have been affected as a result of this. We are in the process of collecting signatures from those persons, and those signatures and the evidence of those cases will be presented to the police. So look out for that in the coming days. We are not about to stop. We are not about to hold back, and we are
Are you
not about
calling
to
for a
allow.
criminal investigation into the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health?
Yes,
Criminal charges.
criminal charges.
Before we go forward, give us the web address of the reporting site. I want to share that information.
VAERSTT.com, VAERSTT.com.
Satish, if we could get that up on the screen somewhere, that would be really appreciated. Omar, so your attorneys are raising this issue with the police service. You are reporting it to the DPP. I'm assuming the director of
We are
public
going,
prosecution.
we are going to be inviting the media when we make this attempt, when we initiate this move, and we are going to go to the headquarters, the administrative building of the police service, and we are going to engage the senior police officers with regards to the investigation of this matter. And continuing there onwards, we are going to go to every divisional um, head of the police service and report this matter, because there are persons in every division that has been affected by these injections and has died as a result of these injections. The Prime Minister and the Minister of Health has to be very cautious from today moving forward in their language and in their behavior.
Umar, I want to thank you for taking the call to be with us on short notice tonight. I really want to thank you for the work that you've been doing. I want to say publicly that I have watched as you built a response over the course of about 22 months when others didn't know what was going on. You stood strong, you stood with everybody who were trying to stand up. I want to thank you for that. And I want to give you an opportunity to have all your closing comments before you go.
Right, so my simple last closing statement. I'm pleading with the government of Trinidad and Tobago to stop what you're doing. Take a time out, step back, listen to the people, listen to us, listen to this group of individuals who have come forward with the truth, bearing the truth. Persons who have love and care for other citizens in this country. Persons who love you as much as they love their own. We don't want to see you, a Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, end up in the political dustbins in history. We want to see you succeed. We want to be proud of all of our prime ministers. We want to be proud of all of our health ministers. We want to be proud of all our health workers. We don't want to be disappointed in them. There are times that you are going to be that you are going to make mistakes, and we accept that after you make a mistake and you apologize and you ask for forgiveness, we are going to forgive you. But we want you to stop what you're doing and listen to the cries of the people. Understand what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. And let us not repeat what has happened in Israel, in Gibraltar, and all these places where we are seeing not just an astronomical rise, an unbelievable rise in cases and deaths in these countries as a result of these. Look at Central Africa. Look at your home, your second home. Look at Central Africa, your next home that you boast about sometimes. Look at what they're doing. And ask yourself the question, are we doing the right thing here in Trinidad and Tobago? You have a duty of care, you, Minister of Health, as you always would put it. I have a duty of care. Where is your duty of care in relation to this 26-year-old girl? Where is your duty of care, Mr. Health Minister? Or do you want to go on public television and laugh as you would have laughed at the old age pensioners going and taking their vaccine, sitting in the rain, and laughed as you would have gone on the international platform when you were told that workers are being put out of their workplaces because they refuse to take the injection, and you lied to this country, you lied to the world, and told the entire world that that is not happening. Let us be real in this country. You and the Prime Minister have acquired a nickname in this country, and you should not be proud of those nicknames. Rowley and Delising. I am not proud of it. I am ashamed that our ministers of government are given names as these. Which country in the world have their prime ministers and their presidents and their ministers have given derogatory nicknames like these? Which country? Wake up, and start listening to your people. This is a democracy of the majority, not a democracy of a minority.
Thank you very much for that, my brother. Thank you very much for that, brother Omar Abdallah.
Yeah, man.
Dr. Rajiv, I interrupted you so that Omar could have closed his comments to go back to the show that he was on when we pulled him in. And if you could continue from where you were going along that path after that fiery closing from Omar Abdallah. You're muted, Rajiv, you're muted, and Stephanie, I want to come around to your right a little bit.
Am I right?
I'm muted.
Yeah, perfect. You're good now, Rajiv.
You can hear me?
Clearly.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
Omar was
Perfect.
referencing Ghana, and in Ghana, I did a post on that last night. The whole of Central Africa is virtually COVID-free, and you could twist it how you want. You could try to say that they are, third world, and they have a backwater health system and so on. But for some reason, there's no way you can hide. You can't hide COVID. You can't hide COVID.
6% vaccine. 6% vaccine
right.
uptake in Africa. 6%. How could they have the lowest numbers of COVID and COVID deaths on the planet? How is that possible with a 6% vaccine uptake? Make that make sense to me.
Yeah, look at Ghana. Ghana is 2% vaccinated. 2% vaccinated, fully vaccinated, 2.7. And in a population of 31 million persons, they have 1,200 deaths, which equates to about 38 deaths per million persons. 38 deaths per million persons. And they are not masking. They haven't closed down their economy and shuttered all their businesses. They continue life as normal. The same thing in Nigeria. Remember, our deaths per million is 1,500. 1,500 deaths per million persons. We are approaching the top of the list internationally. So what is it that happened to us? How is it that we were so flat before the vaccine? And what happened afterwards? Nigeria is about 2,000 deaths as well. And they have, I think when I did the calculations, 14 deaths per million people. 14 deaths per million. COVID is a non-issue. And those are countries that Nigeria is less than 2% vaccinated as well. Listen, I'm not knocking the medical community and the pharmaceutical industry for trying to find a solution, I give vaccines all the time. Let me make it very clear. We are not anti-vax. We don't have an anti-vax movement in Trinidad. We have a problem with this particular vaccine. Is a leaky vaccine the solution for a rapidly mutating virus, where there are super variants coexisting together, what happens when you use a leaky vaccine and you try to knock out a few of the variants, but you allow more virulent forms of the virus to thrive and to transmit? And the Lancet just came out with an article in November the 19th. And they have stated their observations internationally, where you could see very clearly that the virus has completely broken through the vaccine. Vaccinated individuals have the same viral load as persons who have not taken the injection. Vaccinated individuals have the same potential for transmitting the virus. So the vaccine is not interrupting the spread, but we are using vaccination status as the basis for systematic segregation. Segregation.
I see a former prime minister who campaigned for decades on national unity and never segregating the society, went on record to ask for segregating of the vaccinated and the non-vaccinated. But and again, I want to come back to Stefan. Stefan raised an issue just now, and Stefan, the issue that you raised, where is the increase in the public health sector that gave them a parallel health sector? When you hear the term parallel health sector, don't you think that they added another health sector and now we had two, that we doubled it instead of cutting it in half? So now the failing public health system that we had before, where people used to go and spend 2 and 3 days in casualties lying on a hard bench waiting to see a doctor, that was cut in half, and then they want to blame COVID because it's collapsing.
Madness. That's what I'm telling you. They're using COVID-19 as the excuse for their incompetence. You mentioned, and we have to look into these things. Look at the questions that the media are not asking. What the media? We live in a country, and we live in a time where the media regurgitates the information that the government puts out. So, if you're going to listen to the news, let's say later on tonight, what you are going to hear is the amount of cases recorded for the day and the amount of deaths as put out by the Ministry of Health. And this is the narrative that will be used on every media platform to fearmonger and scare the population, so that you're going to run and hide under your bed and in your closet because COVID-19 outside, and if you get it, well, it's the end of the world coming.
Sky falling.
Right? This is the narrative. The sky falling, the world coming to an end. Right? Now, why aren't we asking important questions?
Before the vaccine,
before
the vaccine, why the sky didn't fall for those 13 months?
Exactly. You mentioned we had 2 elections, Christmas shopping, backyard jam for carnival. You remember that? People was having backyard jam during when it was supposed to be carnival.
I remember the 50,000 person Tobago zest, the cruise ship.
Correct. You had 145 deaths in the country. As the vaccination rollout started, your deaths and your cases skyrocketed. It just had a skyrocket. Now, you remove the SOE. You had your increase in cases and increase in deaths, you blame it on the Brazilian variant. You come now, you call a SOE. You say you call a SOE to increase vaccine uptake. Well, that's the jokiest thing I ever hear. So you had a SOE for 6 months. From the time you lifted the SOE, all of a sudden, deaths and cases start to skyrocket and escalate. How? Where did it come from? You lifted the SOE on what, the 17th of September, was it? The 17th of November? Right. You implemented safe zones on the 11th of October. You do the maths there, Phillip. The 11th of October to the 17th of November, and then you have a spike in cases and a spike in deaths. But you want to point your finger at people who are not vaccinated. No, that doesn't mean that I'm pointing the finger at people who are fully vaccinated and going to these safe zones and mingling with each other and taking off their masks to drink alcohol and talk up in each other's face and whatever. I'm not pointing the finger at you either. What I'm saying is we have to start asking questions, serious questions. You cannot just take numbers, throw it at the population, and decide, well, listen, based on these numbers, we're going to put in these restrictions. You're going to close your business down for 3 months. You're going to be on the breadline for the next 3 months. You don't know where your next meal or your dollar coming from. It cannot be like that. Over the last few weeks, with this increase in cases and deaths, right, has the media asked the important questions? What were those people admitted to the hospital for? Were people going to the hospital and being admitted for heart problems, kidney problem, cancer problems, things of that nature, underlying health issues? And when they got to the hospital, they gave them a test. They tell them they're COVID-19 positive. They were already along a particular stage in their underlying health issues, and they died. And they put them down as a COVID death. Because we heard, and I say this, because we seem to be paying attention to the wrong things. The CMO, Dr. Parasram, and Dr. Avery Hines, your lead epidemiologist, both of them had said at press conferences that, well, people come into the hospital for all sorts of sickness, and it's not necessarily that they died from COVID, but some of them die with COVID. We're supposed to take them to task for that, because it means that you're manipulating your data, or your data not accurate in the reporting that you're giving and you're putting out to the public, and what the media are putting out to the public as well. You have to be specific on who died from COVID as opposed to who died with COVID, because it's a huge difference to something killing you and something not.
And more importantly, and what you have sent a Freedom of Information request, and we've sent a follow-up Freedom of Information request with the same data. We want to know all the people who have succumbed and died, what were their age, what was their weight and body mass index, what comorbidities did they have, because it is also important instructing the narrative. I mean, I want to back this back. Yeah.
Let me just stop you there. The Freedom of Information Act request that I sent in was in July. They have asked for an extension to December 12th. That is 10 days from now. You see, after that, it had no more extension. There is another Freedom of Information Act request that went in July as well, by a fellow who is on my show as a fitness instructor called Setwayo Laborde. They have asked him for 4 extensions. Now, you telling me that the people in charge of
tracking data is their job, Stefan. Tracking data is your job.
Correct. So
it's data we're asking for.
Extensions.
Exactly. It's data we're asking for. Tracking data is your job.
Let me tell you some of the questions I asked. How many people took the first shot of the vaccine, tested positive for COVID-19 after the first shot, and ended up in the hospital? How many people after the first shot came into complications and died? Because they're using this little trick about the terminology for what is an unvaccinated death or unvaccinated person, right? They're using this little trick, right? So when you take one shot, you're still unvaccinated. So if people take one shot and they get sick and they go to the hospital and they end up in the ICU, they'll tell you that they were unvaccinated. Even after 2 shots, if something happens to you before that 3-week or 2 to 3 week period, before you're considered fully vaccinated, they say that you're unvaccinated, you know. You're still termed as an unvaccinated individual. So they're playing with these little terminologies, and they're skewing the data and manipulating the data.
You're right. Bring Dr. Siram in this, because I want to ask you a question. We've learned and we've known for a long time that one of the first things that happen after you get that first jab is it suppresses your immune system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is the whole problem. We pointed this out to the medical board in July, and I was in the data. I went into the UK death registers. And what I noticed at the time, during the vaccine rollout in the alpha wave occurred shortly after the vaccine rollout in England, which occurred in December to February. And when you looked at the number of deaths in elderly persons, which was the top priority group, that was the phase 1, the first priority group that was being vaccinated in England. You saw that in that wave, even though they vaccinated about 70 to 80% of the elderly persons, the number of persons that died in that wave after vaccinations exceeded the first wave. The second wave in England after vaccination was much worse than the first. That has not been covered by the BBC. It was not being acknowledged down here either. It's not been covered by the WHO.
Break that down. Break that down for the people watching. Get them to understand. Break that down. convenient data. Doc, break that down a little bit so people understand, because this is what is skewing the averages. That there is far more deaths in that at-risk group. You need to break that down for the people watching to understand what it is you're saying with these waves. What exactly you're trying to say?
Okay. Once again, if you look, there's a wave of the second wave, which is the alpha wave in England. You'll see that occurred in December, January, February, right? February, March this year. And you will see that the deaths were higher there. This is corroborated by the public health data that was published at the time by Bernal et al., Jamie Bernal, a very famous person now. She does a lot of publications under Public Health England. And what they showed was that in the interval between the first and second dose, your odds ratio of contracting COVID goes up. And they looked at both the BioNTech vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, and the AstraZeneca vaccine. It went up to 1.48. And what they saw was that the majority of elderly persons coming in during the second wave between December 2020 to February 2021, the majority of persons appearing in A&Es and other inlets in the NHS who came in with symptomatic COVID were actually recipients of one shot. 74% of persons who came in with COVID were vaccinated. This was between the first and second shot.
Where is that data in Trinidad? Where's that data from Trinidad? We need the data from Trinidad.
The data will be found under unvaccinated because one shot.
That's right.
So no, but that information he just gave there from National Health Service in England. We need to be able to get that information of the one-shot people that ended up as the spike that we've been battling since April 4th, 2021. That's the spike.
Think about it, Philip. If in the interval between the first and second shot, okay, you have a bunch of persons taking a vaccine, developing some level of immunity against the Wuhan strain, but not that great immunity against the variant, and having a higher odds of contracting a variant and propagating it, right? So they have a higher odds of contracting the variant, propagating it, but they also happen to get over it because they are developing some transient antibodies. So they get over, but they are told to expect viral symptoms, what you call vaccine reactogenicity. So to expect some fever, to expect, how do I do? To expect a bit of fever, to expect a bit of sore throat and so on. Let me just go. Give me one. Yeah.
Stefan, he digging deep into the data here.
Yeah.
We haven't.
I think Doc back there? You're not back yet? All right. No, we're going deep into the data because he's back.
What do you expect to happen? Yeah, what do you expect to happen in the community? What can happen? And this is what we needed to study. And in fact, we sent in a FOIA request as well, Stefan. And we asked the government to please disclose the vaccination status of all the persons who had breakthrough infections. So if they had one vaccine, how many of the cases had one vaccine? How many of the new cases had two vaccines? And how many were so-called unvaccinated?
This is critical data. This is critical data. We need this information because the public needs to know. What Stefan refers to the scaremongering that is at the heart of the narrative. We need this information in the public space. So when Doc says make informed consent means you know what you're consenting about.
You see, that's the problem. Typical Trinidadians. Typical Trinidadians. They don't understand certain terms. Voluntary informed consent. If you ask 100 people who went to get vaccinated, what is voluntary informed consent? They probably won't be able to tell you. They believe that the piece of paper that they give them to sign that signature, that what they signed there was voluntary informed consent. Doc, you explain that what is voluntary informed consent.
Just let me give you something that came out of Germany today before you go with that, because I want to add this to the
Yeah.
conversation, right? Germany bans unvaccinated people from shops and bars. But what is
Madness.
in no, but what is in this
Madness.
announcement though? What is in this announcement is this. Germany has announced sweeping new restrictions for people who have not been vaccinated against COVID. Chancellor Angela Merkel says unvaccinated people will be banned from many public places, including non-essential shops and events, unless they have recently recovered from COVID. And that's the difference in Germany. Germany is doing antibody testing to see if you had COVID and you have natural immunity. They're accepting that as a vaccine. In Trinidad and Tobago, that information not coming out in the public space. And the only thing that they're doing with this safe zone, the same idea that Germany is doing here, but in Trinidad and Tobago, our safe zones are restricted only to people who have been vaccinated, what they're calling fully vaccinated.
But let me ask you something. Germany has taken that measure to ban unvaccinated people based on what? The new variant?
I don't know if their numbers are.
Is
I
that
don't know if I don't know if their numbers are spiking. I don't know, but what they're
okay?
realizing is the call for the third booster now has pretty much destroyed the notion of a safe zone that existed 2 months ago. Because now, if you don't have your third booster, you're not fully vaccinated.
It's funny. That's Germany. In the state of Florida, where Governor DeSantis has done the total opposite of what Dr. Fauci has advised and what the World Health Organization has advised. In Florida right now, if you test positive for COVID-19 and you do not need to go to the hospital, you do not have to quarantine and you could go to work the next day. In
Wow.
Florida right now, they are treating COVID-19, the Delta variant or whichever variant you want to talk about, as a common cold. You could go check this. This is what they're doing. This is how they're treating with it. You do not have to quarantine. You could go to work the next day.
The last thing I want
nature of how we dealing with it.
the last thing I want to add to this is I got this. There was this video put out today about Omicron, and I don't have it because I would have sent it to Satish now. But what the virologist was saying is that Omicron is taking over from Delta, but it is milder and it is less transmissible. So it may become the effect of a common cold. That's what he is saying.
Hold on. Forget the virologist that just say that, right? I interviewed your brother about 3 months ago.
Dr. Paul Elias Alexander.
Dr. Paul Elias Alexander. In the interview with your brother, I was about to ask him about the Delta variant. He stopped me in the middle of the question and he said, Stefan, forget the Delta. It's nothing to worry about. Let's talk about more important issues. That is what your brother said. I have it on the recording of the interview where he said that. Now, the reason why I say that is the context in which he said that. He said that the virus, he said, Stefan, this pandemic is over, you know. He said the virus is now mutating into milder versions of
doesn't want to kill the host. He said it doesn't want to kill the host.
That's right, because a virus' main purpose is to spread and
propagate
it doesn't want to kill the host. Right, it doesn't want to kill the host because then it can't spread. So it's mutated into milder forms. So boom, now, here comes the Omicron. But before we get to the Omicron, I must mention India for the viewers on MCTV who don't watch my show or don't follow me on Facebook. If you want to know how deadly the Delta variant is, go and look at India's statistics. In a country with 1.38 billion people, India have approximately 460 or 61,000 deaths or thereabouts. That equates to a mortality rate in India of 0.0003%. I will repeat that because I keep saying it for it to sink in people's head. 0.0003% is the mortality rate in India, which is the motherland of the Delta variant.
Stefan, and
So
the only reason for that is that we're running out of minutes on the MCTV broadcast.
yeah.
And we continue on social media after, but we at 8:57:28 on the MCTV broadcast. And for the people who are watching us only on the cables channels, Stefan, take a minute and give them a closing comment, and then pass it right on to Dr. Rajiv. One time, take a minute for those closing comments, and you could steer it us straight into the social media continuation.
Okay, look, I just want to say this. We're not anti-vax. We're pro-safe. Okay? We anti-forced vaccinations. We anti-segregation. We anti-discrimination. I'm just asking employers to please open your eyes now. Think a little bit. You were operating before it had a vaccine perfectly well with your employees coming to work. You didn't have any outbreaks, and we had 145 deaths up until April 6th of this year. Why are you putting your employees through the stress that they're going through? There is no need for this. There's no need for that conversation. We have to manage this together, and people should have the freedom of choice in terms of whether they want to take a vaccine or not. If you want to take it, fine. If you don't want to take it, you should not be penalized for that. And as for the former Prime Minister who was openly promoting segregation, I just want to tell whoever in charge of him, give him his medication next time he do an interview.
Dr. Rajiv Sriram, give us your closing comments for the MCTV audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the level of fatality in Trinidad and Tobago
You have 1 minute,
reflects a failure in care. Yeah, reflects a failure in care. Yeah, it reflects a failure in care. And we have been demanding early outpatient protocols so that we could prevent this influx of cases into the hospital and this level of death that we are facing now. So there is certainly a problem in the way that we are managing COVID, and we're going to have to look at some other alternative solutions to augment the vaccine strategy if we are going to find a way out of this. Because what we're doing here is a deadly failure.
Gentlemen, we have to do this again. We have to bring this panel together again. The public is going to call for it. The time flew. I think I'm going to talk to Satish about trying to organize a special 2-hour show next week, Thursday, to continue this show. And I'm going to invite you all now, and I want to let the public know, mark your calendar, next week, Thursday. We're going to add to this panel, and we're going to continue this conversation. Thank both of you very much for joining us tonight.
No problem. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Going forward from here, we are at a point now in Trinidad and Tobago where the thinking people are going to have to do the thinking for the country. As Stefan said repeatedly, Dr. Rajiv Sriram said it as well. This is not about anti-vax. This is about pro-choice. This is about using the numbers. There's a reason the government is hiding the numbers from you. The fact that they are in this conversation, I found out that besides Stefan's freedom of information and the trainers board, that guy, his FOIA, Freedom of Information request, we sent out one, Dr. Sriram sent out one, and the government is stalling, the Ministry of Health is stalling in providing the information. They're trying to accelerate out of their own unforced error. This kid is of their own making. The reality of the situation is this. There are people outside there in this country who have suffered tragically because of the introduction of this. And we are forcing people, as my brother, Dr. Paul Elias Alexander, says all the time, who are at zero risk to this virus. You are putting them, the risk to reward of entering any drug into your system has to be measured. You have to know if the juice literally worth the squeeze. And if it's not, if you are not at risk, if this is not something that is detrimental to you, why would you take a drug into your system that suppresses your immune system? We do not know what are the long-term consequences of these drugs. We do not know. The short-term consequences have proven to be frightening. There was an overreaction. There was an overcompensation. Many people believe that it was the CDC and World Health Organization's failure to treat properly with SARS that has them responding this way, and the overreaction has built a momentum of its own. It's created tin pot dictators, governments realized that they could write themselves a public health ordinance like Trinidad and Tobago and send police to lock up innocent people in Trinidad and Tobago, come out to have their voices heard. Lock them up, send 5 and 6 police. The police job is to keep the peace, not to be the thugs of a dictatorial regime. And we need to be mindful of that. Police officers are citizens of this country. Their family members are equally at risk to whatever madness this government is doing. These people standing up together in the savannah should not have been treated that way. I think that was a day of shame and infamy in this country's history. And we never, ever, ever need to go down that road again. What we need to do is think. Think past the point. If you do this again, and the public this time do not back down, what happens? Will you open fire on the public? The government will collapse that day. Trinidad will lose its standing in the global family of nations because the government sent police with high-powered weapons to open fire on citizens standing up for the democracy. And if you're not going to open fire on them, if what you come to do is keep the peace, you don't need to come with high-powered submachine guns. And you don't have to come dressed like jackbooted stormtroopers. Now, I was there, and there was a female inspector, and she was doing her best to talk. And when the media said they used suasion, she used suasion. She tried her very best, and I know that. But we are at this point now. How is the gathering of the public to speak to an issue against the law, but Keith Rowley and his band of campaigners all over Tobago in the hundreds, not the same thing? Or is this a dictatorship in everything but name? That the PNM could go out in their thousands and campaign for an election and that not worry Inspector Alexander on beyond the tape that he, Rowley, and them campaigning might be spreading COVID-19. But citizens gathering in the savannah could. Trinidadians have to take a long, hard look at what is passing for governance and leadership in this country. We need to take a long, hard look at what the police are being made to do. The enforcement of law must serve the people. There is something in the United States of America called posse comitus, where it's a law that prevents the United States of America from bringing the army into continental United States of America for this reason and purpose. Now, I'm not using anybody else as an example. I am using Trinidad. Trinidad, Umar Abdullah said earlier, when we say every creed and race finds an equal place, the one thing we do have out of the discipline, production, and tolerance is tolerance. We've learned to love each other. We've learned to tolerate the differences that other nations would break down in a heartbeat. We've learned to live as a multi-ethnic rainbow country, and it is politics and bad governance that has forced into our national conversation the idea that race could be a reason for deciding who gets to lead the entire family that is this nation. I want to call on the government to be wiser. I want to call on them to stop. I remember Lloyd Bess said once, and I was so taken aback by how profound the statement is. And he said, an election in Trinidad and Tobago is a fight for the cash register and to order the police around. That's it. These governments we've had have never been about developing Trinidad and Tobago as a nation. Right now, there's a video going viral on social media, Steve Harvey in the United Arab Emirates, and he's showing the pit of sand that UAE was 50 years ago, and the first world best city on the planet that it is now. And he's saying that the only thing that did this is love of people. It's not just money. But if it were money, Trinidad had more money per capita than the United Arab Emirates. Trinidad was the third wealthiest nation in the Western world. It was America, Canada, and then Trinidad. Trinidad was ahead of Venezuela, that has more oil than everybody. Trinidad was ahead of Brazil and Argentina and Chile and Peru and Paraguay and everybody in the Caribbean. Trinidad was the third wealthiest per capita in the Western world, third only to the United States and Canada. In the 59 years that we've had independence, if Steve Harvey was to come and sit in our cowshed of an airport and start the same conversation, all he would be able to say is that the amount of hatred it took for government after government to do to the people of this country what it did, a nation that was awash in petrochemical dollars. It is estimated that we've made and spent in excess of $3 trillion. Shadow workers, senior officials of the oil industry said it could have been as high as $10 trillion that Trinidad and Tobago had. It never even reached our shores. That the $3 trillion that the governments and their financiers and their friends stole, that's the small end of the stick. The big end of the stick, about $7 trillion, that was negotiated away long before it even came near Trinidad and Tobago. We could be, right now, the best place in the world to live. Everything that is good about Trinidad, plus obscene wealth and riches and first world developed status. What do we have? We have a country where public transportation doesn't run on time. We have a country where we get rainforest climate. We have rain falling that floods the nation because we don't know how to manage the water that we get for free. And while that's happening, people's taps are dry for weeks on end. Our education system fails. The vast majority of our children turns them into security guards and fast food packers. We have a country where nothing works. There is no part of Trinidad and Tobago. There is nothing in the public, no entertainment, no sport. There is nothing that works. And tonight we're talking public health. I have a niece who just recently graduated as a full doctor. And while she was going through her studies, she would cry to me and she'd say, "Uncle, I go on shift in the hospital and I see people sitting there. And at the end of my shift, they are sitting there. And I go home and I come back the next day and they are still sitting there." And she cries that this cannot be the public health that our doctors are working in. And our doctors have not done tools for love of the people. Our nurses have not just walked out in disgust. Because this can't continue to happen. The Prime Minister's announcement today that they're standing with prison officers, that is bogus, hot air, windbag, waste of time. It should not have come to this many prison officers dead. There is a physical percentage of people who have worn that uniform who have been murdered. The majority of prison officers will never own a home. Have to go and take off their clothes in the back room of an HDC office and bend down and touch their toes to hope to get one. This country is failing because the government fails. Not for lack of money, not for lack of good people, not for a bad climate. We have the most fertile ground in the world. We can't grow mold. They can't grow fungus. We have a minister of sport who never ran a race in her life. Trinidad and Tobago that punched above its weight class year after year after year. Can't warm a bench. We can't provide a proper football team. We can't provide a proper Olympic team. Our cyclists, our swimmers, all trained in America and other countries. Trinidad and Tobago has failed its athletes. It fails its artists. DJ Anna and Simo in LA right now trying to get a life. They got to offer roadie. They're gone. Granny, she gone. Look at Trinidad and Tobago. Look at it. Don't be your color. Don't be your hair texture. Don't be what your mother and your father and your auntie and your aja tell you. This is not that. This is a country that for 59 years had every right opportunity to be the best place to live in this world. When Lee Kuan Yew took up the responsibility for Singapore, Eric Williams took up Trinidad and Tobago. They never had a drop of oil or gas. And he came here to see what we were doing with ours. Singapore is now a first world developed nation whose economy has eclipsed the United States of America's per capita. Singapore is a third the size of Trinidad and Tobago. What are we doing, Trinidadians and Tobagonians? Tobago, what could the PNM that has pissed on you for decades, what can they tell you that has used your people as slaves to fool the public with a THA that has been a vehicle to enrich PNM finances? What has Tobago to show for the PNM? What? What are we as a nation, if not failed and broken? Those police officers that were tossing people into that bus, they are being used. They are being used to defend white-collar criminals and theft at the highest level. The people who stand up in that savannah to say Rowley must go had every right. And the next time you hear something called for people to come out, forget the buses. Come out in your tens of thousands and your hundreds of thousands, because this is your country and this is your democracy. And even though there are bullshit laws that you need permission from the police to gather, or the bullshit law of Legal Notice 31 that has nothing to do with what is taking place in public health in Trinidad and Tobago, stand up for yourself, for your grandmother, your grandfather. I watched them throw this old lady in that bus, and I think to myself, how much hate do we have to have for ourselves for that to be our reality? How much? How much hate? That takes hate. And then hate is all the PNM knows. Hate is the PNM, not great. Hate. Hate is the PNM. Everything broken in this country is the PNM. Everything stolen in this country is the PNM. Laventille Hill existed before Goodwood Park Hill. You could sell one property on Goodwood Park now and buy the whole of Laventille. But the PNM tells the black people who live in Laventille that they care about them. If that is how you care, please stop caring. Stop today. Let the people go free. Free of your involvement. Free of your caring. Take that somewhere else. The people you didn't care about, they prospered. The recalcitrant minority, they prospered. They are the largest group of landowners and business owners in the country. And you hear the nonsense that Peter George Sr. and Mario Sabga talk about these retailers who pretend that they are the most powerful in the country. They're not. They pull strings of politicians, but they're not the most powerful in the country. Per capita, the recalcitrant minority, vast, far and away. And why did they prosper? Because the PNM had separated them from the bounty of the development. Look at what the PNM followers got in exchange. Handouts instead of hand-ups. An alphabet soup of make-work schemes that helps nobody. Our people thrive when they escape Trinidad and Tobago. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take your calls. Stand by.
It's Christmas at Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Professional services at affordable prices. They have air conditioning units, Wi-Fi ready, starting at $2,650 with free delivery and installation. We supply Pioneer, Lennox, Comfy, and Infinity. All at unbeatable prices. Servicing of a 12,000 BTU, only $150. Don't forget to check them out on Google, Facebook, and Instagram. Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Professional services at affordable prices. Contact Darren's Air Conditioning Services at 749-8245.
And we're back and we're setting up. And I know that our phone call system is still not the best. We're waiting on a new system that we're supposed to be getting. So I want to ask you to bear with us a little longer. We're taking your calls on 682-2110. If you would like to make a contribution to the show, feel free to call in. Please, if you do call in, listen to me on the phone and not on your device. 682-2110. My brother just wrote, it never ends. Israel is on its fourth booster. This is a joke of epic proportions. The people of the globe are being taken for granted and made fools of. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Good night, Mr. Phillip. Right. I just calling to tell the nation tonight that the Prime Minister is not a bad person. He's a terrible Prime Minister, but he's not a bad person. Imagine this man, Mr. Bash from A&V Oil, lost his case in the High Court, went to England to reappeal his case in the Queen's Council, lost his appeal, and come back to Trinidad, get a 10-year lease and $10 million.
That's a good fellow, boy. That's a friend.
Imagine,
that is a friend to have.
Yes. Which man you know will do that for somebody?
And
the
like your
thing about
sarcasm.
it is our money is the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago that is feeling it.
Trinidadians can't picture that is their money. If Trinidadians thought for a minute that it was their money, they'd have rioted a long time ago, since Eric Williams was there. Trinidadians don't understand that it is theirs. They have no concept of the idea that it is theirs. And because of that, governments have gotten away with the wholesale looting. Trinidad and Tobago. Thanks a lot for your contribution.
The people of Trinidad and Tobago are stupid.
Thank you for that, my friend. Thanks for your call. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Good evening. Calling from St. James. Sorry I missed most of your program tonight. I try to call every night. But our contribution is this, right? I saw a little while ago on social media something where the Minister of Health is saying that it is hard for him to see the mortality rate of COVID-19 in the ICU units because whatever reason, all I'm saying is that just shows pure incompetence in your duties as a Minister of Health in a pandemic where you're supposed to be taking account of this kind of information. Or you could say that it's hard to see how many people died in the ICU. That making any kind of sense to you?
No. You're correct.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. If you'd like to make a contribution, 682-2110. I would like to thank Satish Ramsaran and his team. Believe it or not, we had to shift gears and put this show on in less than 2 hours. Amazing, amazing work that you all could have shift gears and change from one show to another. And special thanks to the technical team at MCTV for always doing such a brilliant, brilliant job. Yeah. And we can read contributions on WhatsApp. You could WhatsApp me on 682-2110. People are responding to that video that we shared about United Arab Emirates, and one person said, reminds me of Trinidad and Tobago. After 50 years of oil money, we got 4 short towers and a few new back roads worth 3 minutes of driving. If you don't understand that there is no other country in the world that has the pitch lake that we have, somebody with knowledge of pitch and how it works told me that there is something called pitch cement. And pitch cement, if we use that to pave the roads, we'd never have to repave it again. It would require minimum maintenance. And he said, if you want to see where that is in use, they use pitch cement to pave the Audrey Jeffers Highway, the Foreshore Freeway. And it's only when he said that I realized how very rarely do you encounter bad roads on that road. And I'm thinking, why then do we not use that? And he said to me, because the corruption in road building in this country is staggering and measurable in the billions of dollars. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Good evening, Phillip, and the whole team there. I must say, you make me a very proud boy. And you're actually, you with the team, they really showed me that I'm not going to take any vax. The other thing I really wanted to say too is, like, we need to ask our brother, Ian Allen, be careful. And if you're not supporting something, don't just come and just talk out at time and talk and say that the pushback was like anti-vax and all this kind of nonsense. It was the people who was abusing the police, and I was there. I was there when they took the first person in the bus. Yeah, and the other person is Roger. Nobody should ever air him on any other program, say hear anything he has to say. He really looking for relevance now, and he's not important anymore. If he didn't have this disease, this serious disease in his heart of being a pure racist, today I really need to see Mr. Roger take his mannequin and go by the old flamboyant point up here and hang himself and hang the mannequin there also. Thank you, Phillip.
Yeah, but you can't go that far, and I had to cut you. You're going too far. You're going too far with that part of the thing, and I need to say it. I need to say it because I want us to not lose our humanity. Don't let the actions of other people make us less than we are. Please. You could call back and you could call in all the time, but please, let's not lose sight of what we are, because what we're fighting for, if we become what we hold in contempt, what then would be the point? Yeah? That's all right. You don't have to apologize. I get the WhatsApp from the apology and stuff. That's all right. People are responding to former Commissioner Griffith saying that he has, if he wanted to be as childish as the Prime Minister is being, because the Prime Minister is releasing information on, I'll come back to that, remind me that's what I was talking about. Hello, good evening, you're live.
A very good evening to you, Mr. Phillip.
Good evening.
Where was the St. Clair police when Andrew Gabriel had over 200 people in the wedding? Where was the St. Joseph's police when I.M. and company had a wedding? Where was the police for Bombay funeral? Where was the police for Abu Bakar's funeral? All the best. Have a great evening.
That is a game that we could play. Where was the police? Indeed. I just told you all, you had to remind me. And how are you going to remind me? Because this is not like the normal live videos. But that question, it seems to be one law for some and another law for others. I'm proud of the closed caption on the live video. Great job, guys. I think we're getting to be a very professional outfit, this media. If you would like to assist us in any way with the media arm and to take this, we need sponsors for the shows, and this show could be nightly. Somebody mentioned Ian Allen, and I want to say, I have always thought Ian Allen to be very entertaining. I don't know who goes to Ian Allen's show for information or guidance. And if you do, you get the guidance and the information that you went for. I think he's a fantastic entertainer. His his length of time on media prove the concept that his brand of entertainment is something that people want. But come on, don't go to that source to guide you. Ian Allen's position on anything has to be taken with a pinch of salt. And if I was Ian Allen, I would bring out my own crime watch salt so people could take a pinch every time you talk. People are saying that the commissioner of police should not hold back the information that he has. Okay, I won't take any more calls. I'll make this point because I need to make it, because it was done on the show. What people missed, and I guess sometimes you can't just cut up people's food for them, you have to chew it for them. So I'm going to chew it for you. What the former commissioner was saying was that the prime minister is being highly irresponsible and reckless with that information that he is sharing and using it to bully the former commissioner, who, as up to this point, has not replied in kind. Because Gary Griffith wants to do the right thing. You could love him, you could hate him. If it's one thing everybody agrees on, Gary strives to do the right and proper thing, because Gary wants to come and boast and tell you he did it the correct way, the right way, it was done, these are the results. He wants that. So he doesn't want to have to behave like the prime minister. And that's what he was saying. That he could, if he wanted to be a little boy as well. He does not want to be childish. He does not want to be juvenile. And for those who are trying to measure the responses of both persons, I want to tell you something. Keith Rowley is misusing office to fight the most popular commissioner of police we've ever had. Gary's eclipsed Randolph Burrows and any legacy Randolph Burrows had. And the reason he has, top to bottom, is because Gary made people feel safe. And we thought, and I said once in an article, you know what? Find the Gary Griffith for WASA, and find the Gary Griffith for Ministry of Education, and find the Gary Griffith, because you need people, and I'm using his name, Gary Griffith, because I understand how he functions. It's a lot like the way that I function, and it is about getting the job done. It's not about making friends or enemies. It's about you've taken up a responsibility. Your job is water for all, then focus on water in the tap. Whether they love you, whether they hate you, they like how you dress, what you're wearing, how you're sounding, it matters not. The job is still the job. We have, and I said this today, so I'll share it now, because Atto Bolden responded, killing himself laughing. I said, our food minister is a lawyer. Our finance minister is a contractor. Our health minister is a failed pharmacist. A national security minister who cannot read. A prime minister who cannot understand. And a sports minister who could not find ESPN with a Sherpa guide. And we wonder why our economy has fallen down like an inbird project. Our sports team can't even warm a bench on world sporting events. Our public health officials cannot pronounce the names of the medicine they're prescribing. And despite having some of the most fertile soil and a rainforest climate, our Ministry of Food Production cannot even grow mold. Mold grows on its own. Trinidad is blighted by the PNM. The millstone around this country's developmental neck is the People's National Movement, the epicenter of the cancer that has destroyed Trinidad and Tobago is Balize House. Make no mistake. And as they try to run, because I see them talking about a cashless society, and I'm thinking, isn't that Carl Mimbert is trying to make revelation come true in the Bible? Why do we need a cashless society? Are we trying to destroy the doubles vendor? Are we trying to destroy the small vendor on Charlotte Street? Because that's who you're killing with a cashless society. Having your business belong to the banks, where without their links machine you dead. Think about it. You want to see how quickly people forget how to use their voice and their freedom of speech? Own them that way. This cashless society idea is an enslaving of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And we have to resist this with all of our might. And the best way to resist this is to destroy the heart of the demon politics that would consider this as a reality, and the heart of the demon politics that would consider inflicting this on the people. We need Tobagonians. If you had no intention of voting, if you weren't interested in voting at all, please come out and vote for the PDP. We need an overwhelming win. We need every single vote to go against the PNM. The message must be clear. Get out of Tobago. It must be perfect. It must be complete. It must not be open to interpretation. They must not have to guess. The idea must be clear to them and succinct. Pack your Jaji bundle and get out. Get out of Tobago. The people of Tobago need to be clear. Say it with one voice, loud, with the power of your finger, and come out and give the PNM the finger, this finger, on election day. Vote the PNM into the sea. Chase them. Tell them, get out of our public office. We want nothing from you. And if you do that, I promise you, Tobago, if you rid this country of the PNM in Tobago, we will take it from there and rid this country of the PNM in Trinidad. We can, all of us, the 1.1 million of us who want nothing to do with the PNM, and I'm sure many of the 322,000 people who voted for the PNM in 2020, I am sure the vast majority of them willing to cross over to something, anything that is not the PNM or the UNC. And I'm willing to bet that if we do that now, if we give them, and every show that we do on this Tuesday and this Thursday night show, every show that we do, we will bring people to you that you could see what a real and sensible cabinet would look like. We will bring informed, educated people who understand the issues that they're dealing with. National security, public utilities, public health, education. You will hear from people who you would say, but why isn't this person in office? And that's the point. And we, the 1.1 million people of us, we could just stop. We could just down tools. We could say, you do it, brother. You want to run the country like it's your own private fiefdom? Then you and Colm come and pick up the garbage. And you and Colm come and open the store and turn on the light and fry the burger. You and Colm come and do it. You and Clarence. You and Stutty. You and Faris. You and Shamfa, you and Camille, come and drive the tanker of gas and drop it in the gas station, stand up in the gas station and work the pump. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, have the power of this country. The three legs Trinidad stands on: our vote, our consumption, our labor. The people of Trinidad and Tobago have the power. We have the power. We have the power to make and break who is in government, who does well anywhere. So nobody must ever come on a television show anywhere and boast that they are the most powerful, because it would give us every right reason to prove you wrong. Don't inflict that on yourself. You don't want that. And Trinidadians and Tobagonians are learning that they have all the power in this country. The people of Beetham and Lavantil and Morva, those people, Silots, who are the working class of this country, keep the lights on. And we have to stop treating them. We have to stop treating Bagatelle and Covine and Rich Plain and River Estate and Sagangan and Abipujar and Big Yard and Cocorite and Waterhole and Belmont and Gonzales and Beverly Hills and Never Dirty and Mbakade. And we have to stop treating the people of those communities like they don't deserve all of our respect, because the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdowns taught us, especially for 6 months, that it is those people that keep the lights on that are most important in Trinidad and Tobago. You can keep the stunt artists. And it is to those people I speak tonight. Know your power. Own your power, because nothing will change your conditions, and ignore the bullshit artists. Tell Fitzgerald Hines, next time he come in your community with a cocaine broom, tell him to put it where the sun don't shine. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We are the authority. We pay the government salary. We pay the president. We pay the prime minister. We pay the chief justice. We pay the DPP. We pay the commissioner of police. And we pay every other public servant salary. We, the taxpayers of this country, we pay those numbers. I want to tell you, somebody put up a post, 36% of the adult population of Trinidad and Tobago paying all the taxes. She need to go a little further and find the demographic of that 36%. And she'll realize that it is the small and the everyday and the pedestrian people, the people who are looking for deals and suffering through, but it's the mass, they're the bottom of the socioeconomic pyramid, and it is them that hold Trinidad and Tobago up. And a lot of these people who getting fat and driving fancy German cars are doing it on the power of those people. And it is those people I speak to and I speak for. It is time to change this country and make it a better place for all of our people. And when I say all of our people, from the bottom of that pyramid come up. The price of labor, the price of food, the price of transportation, they now need to be pulled in line with the cost of living and pegged to inflation. Trinidadians need to know that they have a government that cares about the people. No more must our people be inflicted by sleeping on hospital floors. This government good at spreading bad news. They know how to go and find which country. They hire people like road rat to bring information in public space, misinformation. They will find the wrong and the bad news they need to justify their own bad behavior anywhere else in the world. I want you to look at Singapore, Dubai, United Arab Emirates. I want you to go and look at Japan. Go and look at countries that work. Go and look at Finland, Sweden, Switzerland, Holland. Go and look at Spain, Italy. Go and look at Greece. Greece went through an economic meltdown. Look at them now. Go and look at countries that work. Model yourself after that. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we have every right. And we have to stop running away from home. That's what we do. To the 2 million Trinidadians outside, come back home. We need you. We need to come back home and come back and get your birth certificate and get your ID card and get yourself ready to vote a better government, to fix our country. You've been outside long enough. You've seen what first world looks like. You've experienced developed nations. Come and help us develop Trinidad and Tobago. We have to stop running away from home. The PNM is not enough reason for us to leave this country, and more people have left this country because of the PNM than people who have voted for the PNM, and that's disgusting. Because we want all of you to come back home. It's not enough anymore to think of your own self and selfishly. This country, this is Mama Trini. We have to treat her with respect. Yeah? I had turned off the Bluetooth to finish that thought. And if you want to call in the next couple of minutes, 682-2110, call in and have your say. But let's be respectful when we're saying it. Let's show that we could become something better than we are and something better than walks the halls of that parliament. Let us show and lead by example. Let us give the people something to believe in and to hope for. That's what we need to be. Tobago, on behalf of all of Trinidad and Tobago, we're calling on you, please, to do for us what needs to be done. I want to thank all of the team members of the Citizens Union of Trinidad and Tobago, the Progressive Empowerment Party. I want to thank the team that carries that Victoria Foods Grab and Go, all of the people who do the work and supply the food. Hello, good evening. I don't know why we're not just now. I'm trying to connect this onto the Bluetooth. Give me 1 minute. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Yeah, I'm trying to Philadelphia.
I'm not hearing you.
I just going to tell people, you said something just about people from outside to come and there and share and bring to food. That is something I personally hate. Because it wasn't to the pandemic, I would have been back home voting. And the next election, I definitely come up with it. Because that was we at Trinidadian concept of citizens. We have to come back to this country and vote and get our country right. That is all my contribution to me. Thank you.
Thank you for that, my friend. And I hope that you're listening off the call, and I hope you could send me a WhatsApp so we could continue this conversation, because we need good people like you on board. Yeah, we just missed a call while I was talking to you. So let me see if I give them back the chance. Because I could do that, I could return the call.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. You're live with Philip Edward Alexander.
Hey, Mr. Phillip. Good afternoon. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm Rosalind. I am calling from the state. Something that really hurting me all the time is Rowley. That Rowley. Anytime you turn the TV on, I see it on my tablet up here. But every time you turn the TV on, he running all these ads about Watson Juke, and then he put police to lock up Watson Juke for nothing at all. They could have their big rally in Tobago Sunday. PDP can't get any. Watson Juke have to stay out of the way. They tell Watson Juke, stay out, don't come around, because they're behind him to lock him up.
Wow.
And I think that is unfair.
Yeah,
I think Rowley is so nasty and unfair because, you know, he getting licks in Tobago. That's why he doing that.
Then let's Monday.
And nobody not answering him. When he threw out his slangs on him, like today on the news, I saw it on Channel 5 News on my tablet. He was saying Kamala joining with Watson Juke because Kamala know all her people and them wearing black. Come on. What does that have to do with it?
Keith Rowley is an empty vessel, and that's why he makes so much noise.
It makes the most noise. Empty vessels make the most
Let's get
noise.
the message to all of them.
And Philip, one more thing I want to ask you again. I know you mentioned something about a device that you wanted, but I didn't hear the name that you called because I called Office Depot, but I didn't know the name to ask them if they have.
Send me a WhatsApp right after this. I'll put it on to Satish, and Satish will tell you what it is we're trying to get, okay?
You know, listen, I can't see out of one of my eyes, so that's why
All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send your number. I'm going to send your number to Satish, and he will call you, and he will explain it to you, okay?
All right, no problem. Thank you so much, and have a good night.
You too. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Hello, good night.
Good night, you're live.
Hello?
Yes, good night, you're live. You hearing me?
Hello?
Listen to me on the phone. Yes, listen to me on the phone. On the phone, listen to me on the phone.
Yeah. What my concern is, right? Now, some time ago, are you listening?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Some time ago, about 2 years ago, we had a meeting in Trinidad and I was there, right? And I came up and I speak and whatnot. And what I was saying, I said Rowley made a statement that before election that the people of Trinidad and Tobago is stupid, right? But I let the people understand the people who he referred to is the people that support him, right? Not the people who don't support him, right? And today I'm calling again. I'm looking forward to see what is happening in Tobago. Because if the people of Trinidad and Tobago is stupid, right, then the people in Tobago should have sense. And when they go to vote, make sure they vote this man out, this whole thing out of Tobago. In that way, it will show that Tobago people is thinking a little wise. I hope it will happen that way, you know, because this was really bad that he come out blatantly and make statement about the people of Trinidad and Tobago, which shows his care. He don't care about the people in Trinidad and Tobago. He made that statement thinking, well, look, that's it, I could say what I want.
Agreed.
Right?
Thank you.
So I think this is something that they have to look at and whatnot carefully. And if the people of Tobago, right, take that information of Rowley and make themselves feel stupid and they still support him, then they really prove to themselves.
No, don't say it like that. You were going good before. And keep encouraging the people of Tobago to free themselves from the PNM. Thank you for your contribution.
That is a better way of saying it. I'm sorry. That is
No,
a better way of saying it.
It's good. You made a good contribution. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. You're live.
Yes, good evening. I just want to say one thing quick. The Prime Minister could have an emergency broadcast to come and threaten the country, but prison officers being targeted, the prison service coming out and asking for help, and up to now, the head of the National Security Council have nothing to say, nothing at all to come out and say.
Agreed. Thank you for that, my friend.
Yeah, that's it.
And what Gary Griffith told us is I thought the National Security Council was some important thing. The National Security Council is the Prime Minister and some friends. It's a line. It has no authority. It has no power of state. It is not a constitutional organization. You just put a name on it. You could have called it the Short Pants Club. Yeah? Satish, check your WhatsApp. I forwarded some information to you. Before we end, we're going to be playing that Steve Harvey video. And there have a lot of things that people could do. Trinidadians are growing up from a position of learning how democracy works. Somebody just messaged me, Philip, I was at the pushback, but in my humble position, the next time the police arrest any peaceful protesters, we all should sit down or lay down in front of the vehicles. They can't arrest everybody. The world needs to pay attention to what's going on in Trinidad. This is not right. This is not decent. That is a grandmother who had to say that to me. That Trinidad is not feeling like a real country or a country where the people are safe. The people are more afraid of the government than the bandits. Be confused. I watch a man driving a car, overtake a next car and bounce a wall and come out the car to argue with the man. Why didn't argue with the wall? It's his bad driving. The country feels like that. Somebody just asked, am I live right now? Well, yes. The answer is yes. Are you aware that vaccine cards are being sold? This is the corruption capital of the world. You want to tell me you want to print 1 million vaccine cards and I'm going to believe that you could control it? Trinidad and Tobago has one problem, one major problem. Ignore all the rest of the political nonsense that you hear other people telling you. I tell you, Trinidad has one problem, the PNM. Deal with that. We have to deal with it decisively. In 86, you let them get away. In 2010, you get them all peace. No more. No more. No more. No more. Trinidad needs a healing. Our comorbidity is the People's National Movement. People dying because we have bad governance. People die from, we watch a police car following an assassination vehicle on a road that you can't drive off the road nowhere. You're on one open road with corners. You're trying to tell me they couldn't send a helicopter and police coming the other way and hold them fellas? But if Gary Griffith was commissioner of police and that carload of fellas end up dead on the side of the road because they would have tried to shoot back, and then the police and SWAT and Hernandez and them boys would have out their lights, and then Trinidadians would have to listen to clowns like the Express reporter and Barat Road Rat telling the people how these people not getting their day in court. They don't need a day in court. They need to stop shooting at police and stop killing prison officers. Now, I want to add this. I know that a lot of things in this country are broken. I know that. And I know that the communication is broken. And I'll say this to the people. We have people on remand in Trinidad's prisons that shouldn't be there as long as they're there. We have people on murder charges that 5, 10, 15 years not getting their day in court. That's madness. That's not working. Now, I don't know how prisoners get to protest other than starve themselves to death. I don't know how, if they say that these hits are being ordered from inside the prison, how are they coming out? Lawyers? Prisons officers? Pigeons? How are they getting that out of the prison? That's a question that's in my mind. So maybe if we had a prime minister that had the ability to think, instead of coming on the TV to talk bullshit, but we're standing with you, explain to the country how this happening. How is it happening? And fix it. And if you can't fix it, fire yourself. Stop with the stunting. Stop with the lies. Stop with the pretending that you know how to masquerade as a real leader. You don't. You have control of the cash register and you're making the police service into your own band of thugs. That needs to stop. What took place in that savannah was the people expressing themselves democratically. You, Keith Rowley, you and Faris march all your ass all over this country. You and Abdullah, you and Roger, under the UNC, you march your ass up, you march your ass down, and they'll let you. Roger went in town and threatened the Prime Minister. I was on that stage for Section 34 and I wanted to puke on his shoe. When he said, birds fly high and come down to earth to die. That was a threat. And the UNC just let it slide. Again, I have to note those things when I see when Kublal Singh could have starved himself to death outside Prime Minister office and the media and the stunt and everything that was there, because I was there for that too. And it just went on and on and on. Section 34, 55,000 people come and march and big up yourself on Independence Square, and the UNC allowed that to happen too. So when you're comparing the two parties, because I'm damn vexed with the UNC and a lot of the mistakes they make and the corruption that they allowed to take place and the things that they could have fixed that they didn't fix. But when people talk about the lesser evil, this is where the UNC is not as evil as the PNM. The PNM is an organization of hate. And all of the wrong that is Trinidad and Tobago is because of the PNM. The UNC jump and follow suit. You created avenues for people to thief. So the UNC came into office and a lot of the thieving that went on in the UNC was people who leave the PNM and come and join the UNC, like Ish and Steve and that whole bunch, Russell and Brian and the crew, all of them. PNM people. You must be careful when Pandey say he will sleep with the devil. You didn't know you must be careful who you lie down with. Anyway, I would like, when we closing, we're gonna be playing that video of United Arab Emirates. And I just want to thank again the team. And I was talking just now and then the phone rang and I couldn't finish it. So I just want to bring this up here now. And I would like to thank, in no particular order, Felicia Holder, Satish Ramsaran, Anthony Sinanan, Esther Cruikshank Prince, Hadassah Charles McLeod, Ian Griffith, Janice Leamon Creaky, Jennifer Mohammed, Joseph Ridge Paul, Kaifa Michael Modest, Kendall Baggy, Lima McLeod Wilkinson, Precious Cruikshank, Daniel Jackson, Sean Sunarine, Sterling Leha, Tara Dial, Denise Xavier Superville. There are many, many more. We have people in the office, Alexia, Indira, Michaela, Candice, Teresa. I don't want to forget anybody. Rhoda. We have a lot of us. Dick, Ricardo, Crispin. People that keep the place running and help us accomplish the things that we do. And to be honest with you, we couldn't be where we are today without these people. We couldn't be where we are without our supporters, without our sponsors, without the people that just go out of their way to help make this happen. We couldn't be where we are without the people who, if I say we're selling socks, they come in to buy a pair of socks because they just want to help us and they want to support us in whatever we do. And I want to thank all of those people. And all of the ancillary people, all the people that's secondhand to us, the entire candlelight movement in Chan Ishmael, Candice Barrett, Avanel Hector Joseph, Paul Daniel Nahus, I don't want to leave anybody out, and it's always a problem when I start to call names. I have a lot of good people. This is the last call we'll be taking for the night. Hello, good evening, you're live. Hello, good evening, you're live.
Good night.
Yes, listen to me on the phone, please, not on the device you're watching.
Good night, Mr. Phillip.
Good night.
Good night. I just have I'm calling from Post-vaccination, and I just have a few things to say. We were at the march, my family and I, we were at the march Tuesday. It was okay until the police showed up. I think they kind of missed the point of the march because they came came off really aggressive even before the march.
Yeah. The police wild it up. It wasn't wild. I was there. It wasn't wild, and the police wild it up. I saw that. Anyway, continue.
Okay. Another thing. The speakers of the march, some of the things they were saying, we weren't ready to go to prayer. Hello?
Was that what you said?
Yes.
What you just said, I didn't hear you.
Huh?
I'm not understanding what you're trying to say. You have to listen to me on the phone.
I'm listening to you on the phone.
What it is you just said, something about it not being clear?
Because we weren't hearing a lot of what they were being saying.
Well, that's it. And yeah, you're right. And that was the problem I had.
It went clear to the back. So
yeah,
I think they had to work a little bit on the
they didn't have that.
Using
they didn't have that plan properly. They should have had a public address system and stuff. But yeah, anyway, I had to bring everything to a close now though, because we're running out of time. I want to tell you thank you very much for joining us.
Right. Another thing too. I normally do lunch for my family when we come to town through the grab and go. So I think you still owe me 2 stamps.
I owe you 2 stamps. Listen, no problem at all. I will make sure, in fact, send me a WhatsApp and you could guarantee that I, Philip Edward Alexander, I'm telling you, so you have this that you could record and say, the next lunch that you come to grab and go is on me. You don't need no stamps for that. I will pay for that lunch myself. So I apologize for you not getting your stamps. Yeah? Okay, you hearing me? All right, I don't know what happened to the call there, but yeah, Victoria Foods Grab and Go. We have this going on right now. In case you're wondering what the lady talking about stamps, we have introduced this, which is a loyalty card. And when you shop there, you get a loyalty card, and every time you come there, you get a stamp and you get free food at the end of it. I think it's 10. Anyway, we're going to bring it to a close. Thank all of you for joining us. Thank all of you, all of the sponsors, all of the supporters, Ms. Ala, Mr. Martinez, Mr. Passad, and crew. Thank you all very, very much, Mr. Ramsaran. My partner, the best air-conditioned company in the country right now. He doing real good work, and he offering air-conditioned service to members for $150. I don't know where else you're getting that. Yeah, so reach out, be a part of it, support the companies that support us, so that others will want to. If you want to advertise on these shows, 769-4590. That's Felicia Holder, 769-4590. You can message me, 682-2110. Yeah? Until tomorrow, stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.
I don't know how you did this in 50 years. You look at history. Who does this? Show me anybody else that has done this in 50 years. I'm waiting. Show them to me. This wasn't done by money. Money doesn't produce visions. Visions produce money. You've had leadership over here that were visionaries, great visionaries, and their vision was more about the people than the money, because you can't accomplish this in 50 years without loving your people first, because the people are the ones that's benefiting from this. Look at your health care. Look at your road system. Look at your highway system. Look at your airports. Who does this in 50 years? But who benefits? you're going to care about those people. It's something to be learned about what's been done over here that could be duplicated in the world, because it's people with this much money. You just don't have people with this much love for their people.